Hey everybody, today we're talking Confederate monuments and all that and more on Black Hollywood Lives this week.
You are tuned in to Black Hollywood Live this week.
Yep, there it is.
There it is. I was like, where's that beat? We got
drop.
this beat specific today too. Little Jay-Z, little cool intro.
Yeah. Best song.
Hey. Let that beat kick in for a second.
Because you want to get to the like one good part.
You know, like, that moment, you know.
He did so well.
He
Yay,
did.
441.
That's right.
You guys see all the music videos yet?
I saw him, yeah.
So good.
I think there's like just a couple I haven't seen, but yeah.
The Friends one is the bomb.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Black Hollywood Lives this week. That's right, we play a little Jay-Z for the intro right there. I'm your host, Derrial, Christon. Joining me today is Joelle Monique.
Hey guys, I'm Joelle Monique. You find me all over the internet at Joelle Monique and every week at blackgirlnerds.com.
Yup.
And Courtney Stewart.
What's up, y'all? I'm everywhere at Stewart Starlet because I'm going to do what you do now.
Hey. Jesse Denny's not here today, but he will
He's
return
healing,
for the next
y'all.
show.
He
He's
got to
healing.
get better. He had allergic reactions.
He did.
Intense,
Yes.
dude.
He didn't want to come in here looking like a lobster, he said, apparently.
Yeah, he
so.
looked like a lobster with some cream.
With some cream. But we are very excited because we have two special guests today, looking lovely in maroon and yellow. First off, we have legendary actress Margaret Avery with us today.
Welcome.
And another legend in her own right, Angela Gibbs.
Welcome.
You both look very beautiful. Very summery.
I know.
Give us the summer.
This is LA.
Need
That's
these
true.
outfits. That's true.
That's true. It's always
That's true.
summer in
It's
LA.
summer all the time.
We are blessed.
That's
to be-
right. We are.
Amen.
We really are.
Yes, we
No
are.
humidity.
That's true.
No quakes yet.
No quake.
Okay.
Knock on something.
Knock on everything.
Right. Plastic, wood,
Myself, my everything.
whatever you need.
That's right.
Because
my
I do have a
goodness.
fear of that. So.
And we're out of our drought.
Yeah,
Yes.
that too is
Yes,
true.
ma'am.
Well, technically, yeah, they said we are.
Okay.
But,
All right.
you know.
Okay, well, I'm happy about that. Because they've been talking about that for a minute, too.
Yep.
Well, thank you two ladies for joining us today. We got a fun show. We're going to talk about a couple topics, and then we're going to get into everything that you two are doing as well.
Okay, thank
we
you for having
are.
us. And this child, I've known her since she was just
Yay high to
yay
a
high.
grasshopper.
And she's talking about she has kids, and grown kids.
And let me throw this in there since you started it. when I was new to acting, been acting a little bit. My mother and I started in Watts, and then
Marla Gibbs is
Marla
my
Gibbs is my
Gibbs is our
mother.
Legendary Marla
Hey,
Gibbs.
Mom. And we went over to this theater, Zodiac Theater.
Right.
And there was a place, see, I can tell you, I've never forgotten it, called Does a Tiger Wear a Necktie?
Oh.
And Miss Margaret Avery, honey,
You
was
an
killing it.
You part elephant.
I am part of it. I am.
That's a T-shirt right there.
Oh, I like that. Part
Yes,
elephant.
you need
Right?
that.
I remember some long time ago, but names and stuff like that. I'm like, what? Who? But and she killed it. And I
Thank you
remember
so
being,
much.
oh, you were so good.
I
I've
was
never
lucky
cried
because
so much.
that started my TV career.
Did
Because
it?
Clint Eastwood came to that little raggedy theater and saw
Oh,
me
my God.
and cast me in his Magnum Force, the first of
Wow.
Dirty Harry movies. And that
Oh,
opened the door to television for me.
I looked at you and I was like, oh my God. I was like, okay, can I ever do something like
Oh,
this?
yeah.
I mean, she was just amazing.
And
You
you're
were
killing it
amazing.
now.
Thank you. They were so right.
See, I like all this.
And we both married,
Y'all can
so
just
you
do
know.
the show. We don't need to answer all my questions. You two just take
gonna
over.
sit
We just
and
gonna watch.
listen.
Okay,
I
you
need some
watch.
popcorn.
We gonna hang out. Y'all just keep talking.
Aren't you Aries, right?
I'm Aries?
Yes.
Yep, yep. But everybody thinks I'm in January, so I get
Oh, Capricorn.
I get a lot of happy birthdays in January. So I just
Take 'em
say,
all.
well, it's a blessing.
2 months to party. That's
It's a
what I say.
blessing, but I'm really an Aries, but that's okay. I'm tax day.
Oh.
So I'm happy if I got my taxes together.
And I'm
Get
2
your
days
return.
after Texas
I ain't
Day.
like Trump. I get him in.
Well, we are going to be talking about Mr. He's actually a topic that we'll be discussing today.
That topic already started. Well, all right. Well, we're going to go back a little bit first and talk about somebody else because obviously we got to talk about Cheetos like we have had to do for the last couple weeks. But first up, we're going to talk about Jay-Z because he was in the news again this week because he did an interview on his Titles Rap Radar with host Elliott Wilson and Brian B. Miller, labeled Part 1. It was an hour and about 10 minutes long of all kinds of fascinating stuff about Jay-Z. It was like a get to know Jay-Z moment for those of y'all that have Tidal and got to see it or didn't get to see it
It
because
really
you ain't got
was
Tidal.
true. It's
Yeah.
really true because you can't believe everything.
You can't.
Right.
That's true.
That's why I'm getting birthday wishes in January.
And my
That
mother
is
has
true.
me at 13.
That's true.
That's
Not true.
Oh,
Oh, yes.
wow. Wow.
But that's good.
Yeah, but it seemed very authentic and genuine and chill, and he really addressed a lot of different stuff, from his beefs with Kanye, the fight in the elevator with Solange, his like transitions and how he made the album and what everything kind of means, and he just seemed really honest and direct and upfront. And I mean, obviously we don't know what's true or what's not true, but you know, he seemed honest to me. But
What was it?
what was that?
What was it on?
It was on Tidal. They have a Rap Radar is like their
Okay.
like podcast show that's on
Okay.
Tidal. So I think some clips got released like
They
on the
sure
web
did.
on the web somewhere,
Okay.
but the
You're talking
full
all
you have
about
to have
Solange.
Tidal.
Well, I commend him because
Yeah.
it's not easy to be truthful about your confidential self.
Yes.
You know, and to share that.
Yes.
And hopefully people listen and can relate to it,
For
learn
sure.
from it. And it sounds like to me that it's like a self-healing thing for him to
It
share
did, definitely.
He can move on, and he's grown from the experience.
And he definitely talked a lot about his own growth and things that have changed. And the thing that made it also seem really authentic is there was a moment they were asking something about Beyonce, and he was like, "Oh, I don't know if I should really talk about that. She wouldn't be. I'm gonna keep that to that's between us." So there were definitely like it wasn't like I'm telling you everything,
Yeah.
but you know, it seemed really honest. That being said, he did make some interesting comments about the culture, as we like to call it these days. And he basically was specifically referring to black entrepreneurs and how he felt that, you know, it's kind of shocking how we really don't support our fellow black entrepreneurs, and he just doesn't understand how that would be the case. And he was using the example of LeVar Ball, who is the father of Lonzo Ball, who is a rookie for the Lakers, and like this huge, like everybody is looking at him, he's the next big amazing thing. So LeVar Ball obviously has gotten in a little trouble over the last year or so, sort of. A lot of people say he got a big mouth, kind of run off his mouth and doing a lot of things, but he wants to start and brand his son and his son's sneakers on his own. He wants to be like the next Nike with his son. And so he's been selling these sneakers for like $325.
Yeah, it's like $325. Yeah.
And Jay-Z spoke to the fact that he purchased 3 pairs of these sneakers, and he was like, I don't care. I mean, they're not the best sneakers ever in the world, but I'm gonna support this man. He's got a dream, and why wouldn't we support him? Like, and he went on to say, quote, Nike had to start somewhere. Why do we get so upset when we, us as a culture, want to start our own shit?
Right.
That shit is puzzling to me. I sit back and I'm like, this makes no sense. Why can't he start a sneaker company? People say, oh, you're dumb, your sneakers are terrible. They weren't any more terrible than some I've seen. Bad sneakers from Under Armour. I've seen some bad Michael Jordan sneakers. Horrible. Michael Jordan is obviously the greatest at making sneakers, and at some point, he was selling through Nike, and at some point, he broke away. He started building the Jordan brand, and I'm sure that was difficult, and I'm sure people at that time was like, you playing yourself, you're leaving Nike. Man, all due respect, fuck Nike. And I don't mean personally, I mean fuck the thing. Everyone has this reverence towards these things. I'm sure when we started Rock Nation, everyone said to join Universal or Def Jam, we built a brand. We are culture. Nothing moves without us. We just continue to give it away. And it's cool. We can still participate. Nike still works with Jordan. It's just the nature of our relationship has to change. So a lot of people had a lot to say about him saying that, but I mean, I thought it resonated real strong, and I thought it was fabulous that he said it and that message
But
is
it's a
getting out.
complex issue.
It is very complex.
It is.
I mean,
Yeah, it really is.
It's a lot of it is our history.
And
It's
it comes way back.
It's our self-esteem.
Yes.
It's how we feel about one another. Maybe some of the jealousies,
Absolutely.
and ignorance.
Yeah.
You know. There are cultures when a child reaches of age 15, 16, they're getting savings bonds or what are we
Yes.
giving? Nikes or whatever. But I mean, it's an education, and I could go on and on. It's not one answer, because even in Los Angeles, I feel that there should be more black-owned businesses, as they are. When I'm in Atlanta,
Yeah.
shooting,
I love Atlanta,
I
yes.
know, shooting, being Mary Jane, there are all kinds of black-owned businesses. But when we get them sparsely here, we don't support them enough.
Right.
And another thing too, when we have a big social event or conference or where are we running to? We're always running to the white man's venue.
Hotels, etc.
Yeah.
True.
Right.
Why don't we come to our own?
That's right.
We have to learn to support one another.
And like you said, it's complex. I mean, it goes all the way back. I hate to always go here, but it really does. It goes all the way back to slavery, and it's the whole idea of we're not as good as, segregation, even though it needed to change.
Yeah.
When integration did come about, we ran. We were so happy to be over on in that neighborhood and accepted in that store, and our businesses died on the vine because we've been told that that's better.
Yeah.
And so now when you try to be on par with what's over there, dominant culture, etc., we get slayed by our own people because it's who are you to think you can do that? But it's still the self-hatred. And although at the same time recognize and celebrate that we are business owners and entrepreneurs, and we are out there, and it's getting better, and we just have to become, I think, more committed, if you will, to
And I'm going to throw a little ringer in that now.
Yeah.
I've been living in Los Angeles, more than 40 years, and own my property. Well, the bank still owns it because I keep refinancing, but
I'm not mad at that, though.
I've done a lot of remodeling and this and that, and I've tried to support my people, and the only people who have screwed over me have been my people. It's always an excuse. Oh, somebody stole my tools. Or when I hire Latinos, and please now, I'm not trying to be down. I still got hope, but the Latinos, they want to work. If they're supposed to be there at 8 o'clock, honey, they're there at 20 minutes of 8, assembling, getting their tools out, and they do what they say they want to do. And so we have to be more responsible. When you have a business, know how to run that business. It's not just, it's hard running a business.
Yes, it is.
That's sure true.
Yes, it is.
When you're
Yes, it is.
self-employed, you working harder than everybody.
That's right. That's
You
right.
don't have a check
That's right.
coming in.
No,
And the
you
customer, please, black restaurants, remember the customer is always right. Make that customer feel special. Don't be, with your waitress, don't be mad because you showed up.
She said mad because you showed up.
Oh my God.
I just want some sweet tea. And you already upset with me.
So all of you out there listening, I know that you know what I'm talking about. So the bottom line though, we are beautiful. We have a lot of talent. We just need to get together, be supportive, network among ourselves, help each other. That's why Black Girls Rock the other night was so
Amazing event.
beautiful.
So awesome.
Because we got to see women who have done things and doing things for others.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's what made their
Right,
success
right.
so special.
Yeah.
So
And I feel like
And we can't give up on them. We just can't give up.
Yeah,
We can't.
no.
Like that guy who's not showing up on time. You can't give up. We just got to
But
keep
she
going.
said maybe.
maybe. But I feel like it's getting a little bit better because of the fact we did a story not too long ago about certain artists or TV personalities wanting to support black-owned banks, and there's many that are popping up.
Right.
So there has been a misconception or I guess a misconception of people not feeling safe putting their money in black-owned banks. Like, why are you feeling unsafe about
Right,
that? What's the difference of this bank and Citibank? You know what I mean?
That's probably the reason is that most people don't know the
that there's a
difference between the
difference.
banks. In the same way that, like, I know that Jay-Z speaks from a lot of personal experience with Tidal. When he launched Tidal, people were like, Spotify already exists. Why are we doing this? And Jay-Z was like, well, this is in the hands of the artist, which is a movement you guys continually vocally support with, like, the Chance the Rappers, who hasn't signed with a record label, and a bunch of other artists now coming out saying, I don't need to sign because I have the internet supports me. I'm fine. But I also think, like, I have Tidal currently. I got it when Jay-Z's album came out.
Me too, girl.
I don't know if I'm going to keep it. just service wise, like I love Jay-Z. I want to support these artists. I like having Beyonce's latest album on there. It's very helpful. Spotify doesn't help me with that. But they don't have like the number of albums. They don't have like I don't know, like the app just isn't as fluid. And maybe it gets better. Like my plan was to keep it for 6 months. We'll see how it does. But I just think that especially for like the Jay-Z's of the world, when you're releasing a new product, like I just don't know why Tidal went after Spotify so hard.
This child sure can talk fast. I'm telling you. I'm trying to make sure I can listen that fast.
I was seeing your earrings. I just want your.
Oh, you can hear it.
Oh yeah.
Bam,
Bam, bam, bam. Okay.
As beautiful as those earrings
How
are.
about I think I just-
There you go. That's perfect.
How about that?
They real pretty though. They real pretty.
They were pretty. I'm taking them away. You saw them, huh?
And you can purchase those at.
Yes. Where they go,
All right.
But I want to just throw this caveat in. My mother had a business, Marla's Memory Lane.
Right.
And
Fabulous.
same kind of thing. And we had a theater and
She hired me once, you know.
she did?
Yes, I sang.
You see,
Yeah.
do it all.
And honey, the Muslims there were
We
fabulous.
had Muslim security.
Yes.
She had the best food, and then we had a theater. And then she did the theater. I mean the restaurant while I did the theater, which 227 came out of it. It was a play first, and then became a TV show. And when I tell you how hard it was to get us to support us, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, when you, like Margaret said, Muslim security, the best food.
Oh, they were in their
It's like,
suits,
why are you all over here? You know. and it's-
escorting me to my car.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
So we have to support each other. I'm just
Yeah.
So
throwing it out
classy.
there.
We can do better, y'all. That's
We can do
just
better.
the-
And
And
we
we're
will.
going
Work in
to.
progress.
We're
We will
going
continue
to.
to.
We're work in
Continuing to.
progress.
Work in progress.
Absolutely.
We got a lot better though,
Absolutely.
hopefully.
All right. Well, speaking of works in progress, our government's still a work in progress apparently, and so is our president. So we talked last week. It was about Charlottesville and all those crazy comments and whatnot, and he, decided this week like I'm gonna go to a rally and I'm gonna, talk some more. He spoke for 75 minutes, y'all. Did anybody try to watch that?
No.
No.
I didn't bother
Yeah.
this time.
I watched the 3-minute highlight.
The 3-minute
that's what I
highlight.
did.
Yes. I
Because
mean,
who can do more?
I mean, I had to. I couldn't when it was on Tuesday, and then I had to go back because we're doing the story. So I was like, let me actually listen to the whole thing.
I think
just
I
hard.
was watching Mary Jane. Maybe that's what it was.
Nice.
That
Smarter
was a
choice.
much
Yeah,
better
that
choice.
was.
Much
that was a
better.
much better choice.
Love
But
the show.
so basically, this rally was supposed to like bring people together and be talking about, united we stand and all of this great stuff. And they had a couple speakers that went up before him that did that. They said, hey, we can work together. We should be together. We're America. This is amazing. Well, Bro Trump got up there and he basically said, initially he started out for like the first 3 minutes of the speech talking about how amazing the crowd was and how the fake media will never cover how amazing and how many people are in the crowd listening to him right now.
God, if he's still-
And how he's been center stage.
Did he really
since
have a
the
lot of
debates.
people this time?
I mean, it was some people. There was a lot of people, but they also said a lot of people were starting to leave once he started talking. So, but it's just that he harps on the fact that he was center stage and had all these crowds while he was in the presidential race, and we're like, "Bruh, what are you talking about?" Anyway,
Narcissist, raging
he's
narcissist.
insane. But he went on and he basically spoke about a few different things. One of them being his threat to shut down the government if he does not receive funding for the wall that he said Mexico was going to pay for. So he made that threat in that speech. He also threatened, he basically said again that all the media is fake, and he attacked every journalist and said how horrible they are and how horrible they have been. He attacked 2 of the senators that are Republican from the state that he was in and called them trash and all kinds of things. He also repeatedly referred to the protesters. These were the people that were protesting like Charlottesville Nazis. He referred to them as thugs. And he coyly hinted that he will pardon Joe Arpaio, who was the former sheriff of Maricopa County, who was convicted in July of criminal contempt in Arizona for ignoring a judge's order to stop detaining people because of being suspected as immigrants. So he kind of like jokingly made it seem like he's going to pardon this guy who has been found guilty of doing something that a judge told him not to do. And in the last 24 hours, he retweeted the meme of himself and Obama, which is funny because I only saw the meme initially on Eclipse Day that had Obama eclipsing Trump in front of Trump.
Someone literally just copied it.
And somebody flipped it, and he retweeted the flip where he's eclipsing
Obama.
Yeah, and he's getting criticized for that because, first of all, the media was talking about how late he is. That's a whole joke
like
at this point. And the fact that you stole the same thing. You weren't even creative about it. You know.
But how presidential is any of this?
That you're president.
And why do you have time to do this? Why do you have time to do this?
Exactly.
I have no
He doesn't go to
idea.
his meetings. He finds them boring. They have to give him very short written statements that he can read. This is true.
It is true. They
It's
did
true.
say, and
give
he
him-
likes pictures.
And they have to
for
put.
his-
They have to make sure that they have SEO copy for Trump, essentially,
Yes.
which is search engine optimization. For those of you who don't know, where they put his name in repeatedly.
Yeah.
They'll bold it, make it a little bit bigger, so that his eye is drawn to it, so that they can get some information into his brain about the country he is running.
I think we have to think about how we can survive him.
Please tell me. Huh?
Yeah,
I'm writing notes.
because
We're all wondering that.
if we really get saturated in his negativity, we're going to become negative.
Yes.
That's true.
And
go backwards.
I have a scar here from a German Shepherd bite during the Civil Rights Day when we were just trying to get the right to vote equally, to sit at counters.
Yeah.
And there are too many people who have worked so hard, sacrificed their lives for the progress that we have made. We've got a long way to go, but we don't need to be dragged back. And we're spending we're spending a lot of energy talking about this crazy man.
Yeah.
And he wants to take us back. I mean, there are no nice people if you're marching with the Nazis and white supremacists. And so I don't know what Congress, the Republican Congress, is going to do in the Senate because they can't. I think there seems to be a lot of reacting now of saying, hey, I mean, as a matter of fact, because from what I understand, Trump did want to get rid of Mullen, the investigator.
Yeah.
Yes.
And he was going to do that when Congress was on vacation, on break. And Congress got together and said, oh, no, you will not. We're going to have this investigation.
Yeah.
And whatever steps they did, it was prevented him from being able to do that. So there is hope.
There is hope.
I mean, there is some light that's being shown. I mean, I think people knew what they were getting, but they thought that maybe they could control him, and maybe get a lot done in Congress. I had hoped that because with a Republican Congress and Senate, you would think, oh, okay, let's at least them get something done. It won't be like they did Obama. But I think it's going to get better. And I noticed too that when President Trump lashes out and all of that, I think that the investigation is getting closer. And he's setting himself up for fake news. So when the news does come out, his base that he keeps preaching to
That's a good point.
will say,
point.
we don't believe
Leave
it.
exactly.
Because the closer they get, from my perspective, the more crazy he gets.
Well, he's isolated.
Because his son, I remember his son during the campaign was on an interview and he said, the question was, will your father show his taxes? And his son, being naive and not really, I guess, prepped for the press, he says, oh no, he'll never do that. That'll kill us. And I never heard that interview again. I never
I was
heard
gonna say,
that
I missed that.
Missed that one, yeah.
What?
they never showed that again, and all this business of him, of President Trump saying, "Oh, I'm under what was it, audit?"
Audit, yeah.
And then after he won president, you never know about those taxes.
You don't hear about it anymore.
Those taxes reveal something. I mean, it's just
Of
like.
course.
With Hillary, I mean, she deleted those, they said 3,000 emails. There was a reason she deleted them. I sure would want to know.
I was hoping it was in the book.
It was on her personal,
Yes.
what you call it?
The personal server.
Yeah, so sometimes I think, well, was she having an affair? or did she call Obama the N-word?
That would make
going on
it very
there?
interesting.
Right,
That would be a
right.
good read.
What would you do? I mean, you figure these emails
Yeah,
on your
they got
private
Some of them,
server,
right.
they're private.
In private conversations,
You know, it's
yeah.
like you having a private moment in your home,
Yeah.
in the bathroom or
right.
whatever. So,
Ooh,
Miss Hillary, I love you.
I would love to
I
know.
love you, but I do want to know.
Did you guys hear
That's
the?
right.
Did you hear the excerpt from her book that she was reading that like kind of went around where she was talking about the moment where she was on the debate stage with Trump and he was following her
my
around and
God.
breathing down her neck
Yeah,
and
I saw that.
and she asked
was
the
hard to
question
watch.
like, what should I have done? Like, what would you guys have done? Like,
Right.
It would have been great if she said, "Motherfucker."
That was her point. That was her point. She's like, I wanted to yell. I wanted to tell her to sit
Get up
down.
and say, back up from my woman.
Yes, yes.
That would have been
It was
a move.
crazy.
Yeah.
Well, you know, and at that debate, he had those women that were wired, knowing that they could never speak, but he did that to shake her, thinking that these women that were reporting that he had done something.
Yeah.
He had them wired like they were going to ask a question that they had already been told they couldn't speak. But I want to speak to something you said. I totally agree with you. This is a hard place to be. James Baldwin said to be black and aware in America is to be in a constant rage. You know?
Yes, it is, honey.
I'm paraphrasing, but basically that was what he said. And I was young and at Howard at the time, and I remember I read that and I didn't quite understand, but I get it as I grow older and I see what's happening. And there is a collective consciousness that we all are responsible for, and if we buy into the hate, then we help create more of that, right? So I look at it, I mean, it was a hard night when he was winning. I had to turn the TV off and go to bed
Yes,
because I
Lord.
could not believe. I just couldn't believe it, right?
Yeah.
And the media helped that. I mean, he was like the opening news every day because everybody thought it was a joke. But they
Free
gave him
publicity.
a platform, you know? But I want to say that in terms of collective consciousness that, you know, King says is love is the answer. And I look at, okay, well then why? Somebody up there that way, in within, wherever you is, why? Please give me an answer
What's the
why this
reason
is
for it?
happening,
Yeah.
right? And it woke a lot of people up. And you have whites
And
who
maybe
thought
that's
they
why
were conscious,
we needed
but
to
they're
wake up.
conscious now. Right. They're marching. They're you know, oh, you are really, we're dealing with racism. We're like, yeah, we told y'all.
We told you
You
that,
know, and people are becoming more active. We got to become leaders in our own community. We can no longer wait
Amen.
for the government to
Amen.
give us subsidies, help us with, create, facilities and things like that in our communities that we need. We can't wait for that. We have to be the authors of our destiny. We have to be the ones that are shepherding, our communities into something that's positive and more productive. We're aware now that we're on our own, and so
Truly.
maybe that's a good thing in terms of the actions that we have to take. So.
As my grandmother says, you need a shake up to wake up. So
Come
There
on.
you go.
Grandma, yeah.
she is right about that because
Grandma.
we're definitely in a shake up.
We're not the ones that wanted the shakeup.
That's true.
And now that it is, I mean, be careful what you
That's right.
ask for.
That's
But
right.
That's true.
I think we're going to grow from this.
Right.
I hope so. I
do
mean,
too.
here's the thing.
I do too.
I don't know if you guys have seen the latest reports about the alleged impeachment that is still
Yes.
pending. They were one of his team members actually just said, I think it was on CNN, but he was saying that if he would be impeached, that it actually would be terrible because it would
Look at
spark so
Vince.
many racial
Okay, right.
wars that would happen because there's so much on both sides that so many people against him, so many people still for him. I mean, we saw obviously what happened to Charlottesville. Like those people would be 5 times that if he gets impeached, because then they're going to be coming even, with more hate.
I feel like coming to a head might be the best.
It's crazy.
I feel like that's the best thing to happen, though. Like, if there's all of this tension, I feel like ignoring it or trying to shove it back down is not the way forward. I think addressing it and having these frank, open discussions about race and about, I mean, we're still having the debate about whether affirmative action is a good thing or not. Like, these exhausting discussions that we haven't, I feel like some of these things need closure, and coming to a head might get us there faster.
Yeah.
But then we get Pence, and isn't that worse?
Well, Pence is,
at least we know where he stands, though. That's the only thing I say. At least we
I
know.
look at Pence and I see lethal.
I see, because he knows how to work and how to make it all happen exactly how. Like,
True.
right now, Trump just running off at the mouth and crazy, and people are like, "Oh, what's happening?"
Either one of them
Play
with
by
the
the
nuclear
rules,
codes
though.
scares me.
Like,
he played by the rule. He would play by the rules, and then maybe we can
like
use
he
the rules.
thinks children can
in the
be
game.
cured of gayness with electricity, so obviously he's an idiot. But but at least he knows politics. Like, is that better? Is that a step up? I don't know.
I don't know, but what I
I think
also,
it's dangerous.
as a student of history, we all know major change in this country has only happened with bloodshed and major bloodshed, and that's my fear. So as I sit here
That's what Malcolm
and I'm like,
X said.
this is the light here, and they're telling me how to refigure my brain to think and find, because I literally have spent the week that's why I couldn't watch the speech on Tuesday.
Right,
I'm like,
right.
we're effed,
Right.
excuse my language, but we're fucked.
Yeah.
And then my thinking is literally every time I think about what has happened over the course of history and how things have changed in this country, and like major change that happened, like really to get rid of slavery, we lost a third of the population to get rid of slavery. And then it took how many people had to die in between time for all of that to get to the civil rights movement, and only to have further horrific death continue to happen during the civil rights movement to shift us a little bit more forward. So
Just a little bit,
you know, and then that amount that we move forward, we still didn't quite take it fully into now,
Listen,
because the
there's
stuff that we were
arrogance right now with how they're killing our kids in the street. There's an arrogance that exists within the police force. All police are not bad. I'm not saying that, but I almost sometimes draw a correlation between the fact that we had an African American president.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like we're taking them down.
Yeah.
But the positive thing though is that those people that marched in Boston, it was a lot of white
like
people
40,000.
who did not. They proved that they did not believe in our opposition. So I think there's
That's
a lot
true.
of positive and hope in that. And I didn't see that many black people.
Yeah.
You know,
No,
so
you're absolutely right.
That's true.
and so
Is Boston a heavily black city, though? I'm genuinely asking. I don't
probably
know.
in pockets.
Maybe
Yeah,
in pockets,
that's a good point.
And I don't know.
So I think we have to.
But she brings up a very good point, because you do have these whites now that are really clear that they don't want to be identified.
No, and the Jewish
those
people,
whites.
That's
You know what I'm
because
saying?
they were shouting, Jews will not replace us, or
Right.
Yeah,
Jews
that's
will,
exactly
you know.
what they were.
So it's heavy.
It's heavy. It's continuing to be heavy. In fact, our next subject that we're talking about is how do you guys feel about all these Confederate monuments being taken down, or the argument of them being taken down, because former Atlanta mayor and civil rights activist Andrew Young has asked for Stone Mountain in northern Georgia to actually stay up, and this is his reasoning. So Stonewall Mountain is actually has the face of it has the face of Stonewall Jackson, Robert E. Lee, and Jefferson Davis carved into the mountainside. And this is what Young said about his reasoning for wanting to keep it. He said, "That is a tremendous carving, and I don't want to see that destroyed. I don't care who it is." He says, "What worries me is that this country will turn to the right so that it'll be." He said, soon they'll be taking down Martin Luther King statues next when the racist majority takes over. And I'm saying that a minority can't be provoking a racist majority that is still underemployed, undereducated, and dying faster than we are. That the issue is life and death, not some stupid monument, is what his quote was with this.
But you know what? Remember the old thing they say, you cannot forget from whence you've come.
Yeah.
We cannot forget our history.
I was
True.
thinking that.
We do have history, and by trying to erase it, That's like
'Cause
not.
it didn't happen,
It's,
right.
it's like never acknowledging what Black people have contributed in our history books. You go to these public schools. At least when I was going, all I learned was that Carver invented the peanut.
Yeah.
That's all they said about my people.
It has not changed.
So,
Right.
but I'm just saying there must be a way that we can honor the history in a way that's respectful.
Yeah.
In a way that
Now-
doesn't glorify slave
I
owners
mean,
and
but
violence.
I don't think that we should like tear the
Tear
monument
everything down.
down. Maybe we could put it in a museum or something.
There's
or
a great request going around to do a statue garden with these old monuments that gives texture and contextualizes who these people were and what they did. Because I think there's something to be said of art and especially knowing that these statues came, as we talked about last week, the statues coming around the civil rights era in order to impose a white superiority. Being able to take that down and talk about why these statues were made and looking at how they were constructed, I think is vital to our history
it
and
could be
understanding.
educational.
I-
you know?
But it's for
Absolutely.
Stone Mountain? No, you can take that
No.
one
Take
down.
Stone Mountain down.
Blow it up.
I
Get
went
it
to
down.
school. I
Andrew,
grew up. No, not take the mountain down. That carving,
Oh, that
because the
carving.
same way
Wipe it
we're
off.
talking about like how Black people have these self-esteem issues and things that you don't know, and because we don't. There's a lot of ignorance, and there's a lot of ignorance on both sides of the thing. I was a child in Atlanta, Georgia, for all of elementary school and most of middle school, and they took us to Stone Mountain to literally
see
be
'em.
like, wow, this is not like contextually saying like these were traitors to the Union.
Yeah.
That caught what like obviously some of us are intelligent and read and figured
So
out
we have
and know.
to change the
But you
presentation.
have to
You gotta-
change the presentation,
you
and
gotta-
it definitely. And I don't necessarily believe, because we just did a story maybe 6 months ago about those books in Texas that are being printed,
Yeah.
where they literally printed that Black Africans came to this country as immigrants, but they
Yeah.
was on slave ships.
Yeah.
And that was in print that children are reading. So we have not equipped our country in any way to be like,
Right.
well, leave the monuments up, put them in a box, put them in a museum, do whatever, but those should not be in public spaces where we're accepting that as something that has like done something great for our.
I think specifically
that's disgusting to
Stone
me.
Mountain, because Stone Mountain, the way it's designed, it's like a family like eat out. Like it's very weird to go there and see people picnicking and laughing and like shooting toy guns and things there with like essentially traitors standing up, but like it's a very
right in the photo with right.
it's
right.
weird and it's bizarre and it's a
It's
very
like watching the
icky feeling being
KKK
there.
march while you're sitting there having a picnic.
That's exactly, but
like
that's what it was
glorifying
meant
them.
for.
It's
Like
weird.
that's why it was done. It wasn't done as an artistic moment
No,
in
it
our
wasn't.
culture.
You're
It was
right.
done to make Black people uncomfortable and not
Yes.
want to be at Stone Mountain and to
Right.
remind them that they don't belong there. And I don't understand why we want to keep pretending like that's not where these things came from.
Right.
It wasn't Greek mythology, like exploring the
That's true.
amazingness.
But it sounds like what you're saying. It's the way it's presented, and I still say that we cannot erase our history.
I agree.
We can make
We
it.
need to be reminded.
We need to be reminded, and we need to grow from it. We need to know that hey, we're much better now. But this business, I know that I was in, and I'll name the place. It was Columbia, Georgia. I did a little play there. It was just a one-nighter thing. And in the hotel, I'm lying down, and I like to have my windows shades. I love to be able to see the sun, being blessed with another day. And I'm lying in my bed, and I look up, and I see this tall building, and they have the Confederate flag. Not the American
No,
flag.
the Confederate
not the,
flag.
Just the Confederate flag. Now that I detest. If you're going to have the Confederate flag, you've got to have the American flag. If our flag isn't good enough, then you need to not be in this country.
I know that's right.
That's right.
And if there are things wrong with this country, we can't just be complaining. We've got to figure out how to make it better. It's the easiest thing is for us to complain and talk about Trump, but we need to be also talking about how can we continue to move forward and not have what he is instilling, the hate that he's trying to instill. How can we combat it?
That's true.
How can we not? We just have to have our faith, and action speaks so much more than words. But that's about this thing that we just spoke about earlier, helping each other and supporting each other and making sure, listen to Maxine Waters and our Congress people.
Maxine is coming in. She's going hard, too.
I love it.
Yeah.
She is not
She's not
playing.
playing.
Yes.
Right.
Well, it's an interesting statistics that came out about this whole debate about the monument. So 44% of African Americans believe Confederate memorials should stay, compared with 40% who say they should be removed. Nationwide, 6 in 10 Americans say the monuments should remain.
Wow.
How much?
6 in 10.
Because
6
most
in
of them
10,
think they're
okay.
these brilliant statues that were
Right.
created
Well, I don't
in
know. Do they
honoring.
think it's brilliant, or do they feel like what Margaret is saying is that we don't want to whitewash our history either, where it's like I've got grandbabies now who I'm teaching, and we're sitting and watching.
Ooh, I'm feeling old. You got grandbabies.
Look, me, I was like, it almost didn't come out. I was like, I could go,
You're a grandbaby. You're a grandma.
I'm a grandma. I got grandbabies. I got glam, and we're teaching them because we have to, and we have them sit and watch civil rights, documentaries, etc. And I mean, at 11 and etc. And they're smart, and so however, I do, I have to say I don't know how I'm feeling, because after listening to you.
We have to get our
whitewash our history. Let me say that.
Yeah,
first
we
of all.
we have
know
to.
where we came from.
We have to know where we came from, and we have to have some insight about these history books that are lying.
Oh, absolutely. So presentation narrative has to change.
We gotta get rid of the lies.
Yeah.
However, I do get a sense of what you're saying, because I lived in Atlanta and I lived in Stone Mountain, that there are some monuments that maybe they can be moved.
Yeah,
Because
like burning them to the ground,
to
for sure.
intimidate, and that has to stop. The intimidation has to stop.
It might be that mirror on the wall, and don't you forget it.
That's right. Well, we're being reminded all the time. We definitely will not be forgetting anytime soon.
Right. Right.
But we're going to move on now to talk about you two, because we've given Trump
talk about
enough info or
great
enough
stuff.
real stuff.
Let's talk about black girl
Trump
magic
the
and
Trump.
stuff.
The chop. So you two doing amazing work out there, setting the tone for us and for many people who are just in the entertainment business, who aspire to be in the entertainment business. You two are the force that are really making things happen. So we'll start with Margaret. I mean, being Mary Jane. I mean, this show.
Taking over.
It's literally taken over. I mean,
Yes.
everyone, I know males who love it, I know females who love it, my mother and sister, every time it comes on, they're watching it. You are such an influential person on that show, and what do you think it is about the show that has just really transformed the way TV has changed and why people love the show so much?
Well, and are you going to have an affair? No, I'm sorry. No.
I want to talk about Henry.
I'm sorry.
First, I have to give credit to the creators. It was Mara Brock,
Akil,
Celine,
yeah. Celine,
and
yeah.
Akil, Celine. I mean, they came up with this, and so, and we had 3 seasons with them
Yeah.
before they moved on to doing other wonderful things.
Yes.
But Richard Roundtree, who plays my husband, he and I said the first day that the cast got together at Round Table, and we said, thank you, because we come from an era where white people wrote the scripts, and they wrote what they thought we should say. And as far as having tender moments in relationships, we used to have, I remember, because I come from blaxploitation times when, it's just always cops and robbers. A black man has gotten in jail, he's in trouble, and I'm crying on cue. Right, that's true. And we used to say to the director, well, listen, in the scene, can't we have a tender moment here? Can I touch him? Can we have a kiss? I mean, they wouldn't. I mean, it was like there were no relationships. It was just good and bad acting, socially. He's running from the cops and then me crying, whatever. So that, to me, was the biggest change, the writing and talking about issues that people can relate to, that are real, that not only black people are experiencing, but other people do. Now, about my character, I really like the idea of showing the black family intact. because the black family is such an endangered species. So when they made my character getting a little naughty, I actually cried.
I was just gonna ask.
I said, oh no, I went to the writers. I said, please, do I have to do this? And they said, oh yes. I said, oh no.
That was me last night watching it. Like, no, don't do that.
So, from an acting standpoint, though, it gives the character more conflict because to make your character interesting, you got to have conflict. So,
Right.
and this,
And be flawed.
and it has already aired. I just hate to say it totally what happened because there are a lot of people who are
haven't watched
behind,
it,
Yeah.
and they see it on Netflix or something. But I just feel that from what's happening with Helen Patterson now, my character, it's something that's real, and so it's something that the family has to heal from, like we have to do as a people now that we just mentioned about our president. So I don't know if it's coming back. I'm hoping that it will, but my hope is that people have learned something, even Raven Goodwin's character.
Yeah.
From women who have had babies out of wedlock. Her character has been evolving.
Yeah.
And Mary Jane, her character's been evolving. I think you're going to find that she's not jumping in and out of bed with everybody. So, I'm sorry, Gabriel. I think maybe Wade had something to do with it. She gonna kill me. But I'm hoping that people have learned from the show or are learning from the show, and it's not just all fluff. It's real life. You like it?
I love the show so much for those very reasons, and I remember one show. I'm going to go back a little bit where the woman killed herself.
Oh yes, that's LaTarsha Rose.
LaTarsha Rose,
Beautiful.
yes.
Never saw
She's a great
scene
person.
like that. Amazing.
Yeah.
That was
And how that subject was, and that my friend is Richard Lawson, and how that scene played itself out, and there wasn't a happy ending. There was Mary Jane had a voice, but I like that it was flawed, and it was conflicting. You had someone who was fighting.
That's our writers
to not
now.
have
That's
him
the
there,
writers.
but he showed up anyway, and that's life.
Yeah.
It's
It
like,
is.
I thought it was amazing. But I'm just going
But they
back
say, if it ain't on the page, it ain't on the stage.
there. That's right. That's right. I think they really think hard about how they want to present our lives, and like you said, they give you all the opportunity to have those tender moments, which is also our lives.
Yeah.
It's great.
Well, we were going back and talking about one time. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Joelle. We were talking about how the fact that when you look at television, yes, we've seen the comedies within the black family household, but we haven't seen a lot of dramas of showcasing real life for what it is in the African American community, and this show gives you that. You know, we deal with everything that everybody else deals with, and it's never been put in light.
A lot
as
of
much
the
as this
current
stuff.
issues.
Exactly.
Yes.
Well, and it's just so great to see Mary Jane, who's like a career-based woman, struggle, which I think for black women going into careers, we often have to be 4 times better than anyone we're competing against. And then when we get on TV, you just see a finished product. You just see the final, they're on top of their jobs, they're the best at what they do. But it's a process to get there. And seeing Mary Jane live in the mess that is her life and struggling and still coming out on top most of the time, it's kind of inspirational.
It is.
Have you seen a shift in the?
Did you say the SHIT?
Oh, sorry, shift.
Oh, okay.
What did you say?
What you say?
You about to get chastised. You about to get
Even if I did say it, I would act like I didn't say
I'm
it.
thinking maybe I better put the earphones on.
I was like, if I did say it, I was like, I'm not gonna say it again. She came out look like I'm gonna whoop you right now.
That was a whooping right
She's like, take your belt off.
put on punishment or something.
Have you seen a huge shift in leading black women in Hollywood for both of you?
Oh, Ava DuVernay.
I absolutely.
Or the opportunity, because
Absolutely.
Okay, because we see that. I was having a conversation with an actor friend of mine, and they were saying that, yes, there's a lot of new projects, and we have, people like Issa Rae who are doing their thing and like killing it, Ava DuVernay. But on the flip side of that, they were saying there still isn't a lot of roles, or as many roles as they think we should have available.
Absolutely.
With what we have in Hollywood.
But that's
right now.
from the old thing. Like I said, I've been in Hollywood 40 years. 40 years. And in my span of a career of almost 50 years, we still don't have our people in decision-making positions. And that's the whole thing. I mean, there's a lot of series ideas that have been shopped around, but we don't have anyone in those studios
Say yes to
that
it.
can say yes. And that's why Color Purple was made, directed by a white man, Steven Spielberg, because there was no black man in Hollywood that could get a green light.
Yeah.
And he was the only white man in Hollywood that agreed to do it. So when blacks were talking about, we shouldn't be having no white men telling our stories, honey, that's the only way the story got told.
That's right.
So I'm always thinking, gee, why don't we do this and why don't we do that? And then I find out that it has been shopped, but
Nobody wanted it. Yeah.
Listen, Ava, well, I want to answer your question and say, yes, there is a shift. I totally agree with what you're saying. It's not enough.
Yeah.
However, the shift is, and it's because of exactly what you're saying, because the shift that we're seeing is at the hands of black men and black women storytellers, and especially black women. Who you got Queen Sugar, that's also fabulous.
Oh yes.
So and Abel, is a part of that, and Oprah's a part of that, and so we're seeing women that are textured, that are flawed, that are universal. They just come in this skin. However, it's through the lens of our culture, and no one knows our culture and what's happening under the skin like we do, right? And not that whites can't write it; they're not interested in writing it. And
we don't write the Jewish stories.
Right, and they don't allow, they don't let it write. And I remember going to see Ava years ago when I was at a film festival. I had a short film, and she was speaking on a panel, and I spoke to her then and kept in touch. And so she had this film called, what was it? And I Will Follow. Small film. Beverly Todd is in it. Sally Richardson, Omari Hardwick was in it, and I went to go see it, and she had four-walled some theaters because she comes from that PR background. And she said, she stood there, and I had been trying to get a film done. I was close to getting it done. I had Regina King involved. Kyrie Irving was interested, and it was about the juvenile delinquent system and privatization of prisons way back when. And, we were interested, but nobody was helping us or giving us any money. And so when she said, I emptied my account, I spent $50,000 on this film.
Wow.
Because I got tired of Hollywood saying, go away, little black girl. We're not interested in your stories. I teared up because I had this script. We had been close so many times.
And she had 50,000.
Well, wait a minute. Come on now. Wait, Margaret. Wait a minute.
I was thinking the same thing.
I wasn't going to say it. But since you said it, let me say this. I was like, damn, I got to get 50,000. Look, how I'm going to do that? No, I'm just right. But I thought that too. Wow, good for you.
It took me a minute to comprehend
she
it.
said, listen, but listen. I didn't know what I love you. Because I promise you, when I was listening to her, I was like this, but on the inside, I was like, you got 50,000. But and today to make a film for 50, it's still that's brave, right? And but I remember I teared up because at some point you get so much rejection.
Oh yeah.
You think it's you. You think you need another rewrite. You think there's some. You forget. Oh, the climate is. It's a racial. Racially charged climate, even in Hollywood. There's certain stories they don't want to see. When my mother fought for 227, and it was a play that turned into a show, and I'm not gonna, badmouth anyone. However, the powers that be at the time, the powers that be, y'all can just look it up, you know who the powers were. Not that Norman Lear or any of those folks were, they did a lot of good in terms of some of our shows that were out there. Because again, like with Spielberg's, they weren't making those shows. So we got these shows like 227, The Jeffersons, etc. However, there was still the idea of the woman needs to be in the house alone. She don't need a man. My mother had to fight to have a husband. They wanted someone else who was a wrestling hero to be the white guy, to be the hero in the neighborhood for all the kids, right?
Oh,
My mother had to fight, and had to threaten to walk away with her project before they said okay, right? So there's just that we have to fight. We have to be brave enough to fight. Or brave enough to empty our account, and like Ava said that day, I'm officially broke. Of course, she's not anymore.
She's just
very far from that, but she put in the time to do it.
Yeah.
Yes, she did. To say this story is so important to me that I will get it done, if I have to, lose everything I have, right? And we gotta applaud her for that, because look where she is now. So yes, it's changing.
And what would happen if we only saw our films? Didn't spend all the money going to the other films.
See, there you go. Come on now. That's revolutionary right there. Okay.
But how do we have to be able to organize that and everybody be strong and hold it together? And that's our big weakness, not being able to stick together.
Yeah.
Because the money talks, walks.
It does.
Yeah.
It does. She's
know?
right.
Talk
We're
it, walk it,
consumers.
run.
We are.
We're consumers.
And we can even contextualize that in the conversation of USC released their numbers today on the new statistics. The new pilots for this season, 89% male, 89% white.
That's still baffling to me though, because I feel like we've seen so many new projects that have just come along in the last year, especially from the success of Insecure and all these things.
Right.
I would think that number would be different.
It's still mind-numbing to me that they're not like mining YouTube for more Easter eggs when there are at least four other people we can name right now that could do an Easter egg level project and be just as successful. It's baffling to me that they keep saying, well, nobody wants to see these films, when it's clear to me, and I think
they do.
And exactly, I
They
mean,
go
people
see them.
clamoring for different stories. We're inundated with so many stories. Why do you guys keep trying to tell the same ones over and over again?
Right.
It's
right.
boring.
Because it's easy.
Are you gonna cut us?
Humans
Because
don't
this
like
is
change.
6:30.
She's like,
I'm tired. I gotta go.
she said, I'm tired of answering questions.
We talking all this stuff.
Okay, well, I'll ask this last question.
No, I don't mean cut. I mean edit.
Oh, this live.
They're watching us right now.
They watching you right now.
Okay.
They heard
All
you
right.
swear.
Because I want to make sure everybody knows my Instagram.
Yeah, we.
I love that. That's the reason, though.
She-
That's the reason. She's like, listen.
This is an OG right
This is
here.
an OG. On that note,
Be quiet, Derrial.
I'm learning.
Miss Avery, what is your Instagram say right now? 'Cause you brought it up.
just so it's out
Right
there.
to your camera.
Now see,
Tell us.
it's because I'm old and Instagram is for young folks.
Good, honey.
And-
Instagram for
and
everybody.
I
Mama.
wanted to know Margaret, Shug, Avery.
Yes.
Now don't spell it S-U-G because that's Sug. But I know you try to do sugar with S-U-G, but it's Margaret, M-A-R-G-A-R. Don't leave that second A out. I'm gonna say it again. M-A-R-G-A-R-E-T. Shug, S-H-U-G.
Yes, ma'am.
Avery. Very.
There you go.
There we go. Okay, y'all.
Very.
Support me, y'all. Because
We will be-
I don't have enough,
We got to get her some followers, y'all.
because even now she knows that now you go on an interview and they want to know what you're following.
No,
They
that's-
do. It's
Yeah, they do.
crazy.
It's crazy.
It's
Yeah,
right.
Yes, ma'am.
and
I coach actors,
That's key.
and
I
these
get-
white folks that are casting, they don't care nothing about me being legendary or nothing.
Right.
They be looking at my Instagram
Isn't it
following.
crazy?
No, that's very true.
It's crazy.
Right. I
That's,
get,
that's maddening, just so you know, that upsets the hell out of it. I know it's true, I obviously
Yeah.
know, but like, come on.
So help me, y'all. You guys
some
that are
followers.
listening,
That's
help me.
right.
Come
That's
follow
right. We
me.
gonna
Because
follow
now,
you.
if I do a picture with Taraji, which I did,
Yes.
It'll go up.
It'll go. I mean, but they won't. I'll get a hit, but they don't follow me. They don't. They go and leave.
You gotta come follow, gal.
You got to keep putting it out.
And blame it on who is it?
Proud Mary, right?
Proud Mary, yes.
Proud
That's
Mary.
right.
Proud Mary.
That's supposed to be out in January. I
You
think.
got to go see that. Did you? You seen her? You seen her ads? Ooh, I love that. Now see, that's progress.
That's
there.
That's progress.
And she's perfect for that role,
Yeah,
too.
Right.
she's shooting that gun and coming all in. I said, ooh, I wish they'd do like a little black grandma doing that.
She's a little black grandma.
Put it out there.
Put it out there.
Where's the grandma?
We do have to wrap up soon, but I have two quick questions for you. I don't know if you do too, Joelle, but for Angela, you have had such an extensive resume. I mean, you worked on The Revenant. Obviously, All Eyes on Me. You know, you were the one who transformed Demetrius into Tupac.
Yes,
You know,
thank you.
what would you tell up-and-coming young directors, actors, producers, such as yourself, who are entering this business? Or what would you tell your young self who entered into this business?
You know, first of all, confidence.
And that comes from experience or something, you know,
Yeah,
knowing your craft, studying.
No, so
Or
you got to
what?
study. You know, everyone I work with, they've got to do the research. If you're not going to do the research, if you haven't read the script, if you're not studying, then I'm not going to do it.
Because you don't want to blow your opportunity.
Right, absolutely.
In Hollywood, you get one
One
chance.
chance.
Right,
And it
right.
better be good.
Yeah.
Now, you know, white boys, they get more than one chance. We
Right,
don't.
They do.
So know your stuff.
No,
I'm sorry,
ab-
Angela.
No,
go on.
absolutely no. And I say confidence in that if it's what you want to do, now I'm gonna get a little holy roly here, but if it's what you want to do, then I just feel like there's a divine source that breathed it in you.
That's true.
Own it.
Yeah.
Own it. Don't let anyone else tell you you can't do it. So you got to stand on that. And I do a lot of first timers too as well, like in Revenant and with Demetrius. You got to stand on it, right? And the confidence that you are worthy of this role. You are worthy of this film as a director. You're worthy of it because it was breathed in you, so own it. So that's the first thing. So stand by your voice, stand by your vision, right? People will say, well, why do you want to do that? You sure you want to do that? And then they'll go, oh, wow, I didn't.
You
I
talking
didn't-
about like directing or something?
Yes,
Okay.
directing as well. Right, if you're because you mentioned directors as well. The other thing though is to know your craft and study other films, study other actors. You know, take classes, take workshops, be around like minds who will lift you when you feel like, oh, I don't know if I can do this. They'll say, yes, you can.
You need that.
Exactly right. And be around people that are smarter than you. Don't be afraid.
And not negative.
And not, without a doubt, that's right. Don't be afraid to be around people who know more than you do. That's how you learn. That's how you learn.
Be a
so
sponge.
I guess I would say it's a faith walk. It's about standing in your vision, standing in your power. It's about being surrounded by like minds and like spirits. And it's about doing your homework and knowing your craft.
And not in it just to make money. It's got to be your passion.
Yes.
It's not, as
Absolutely.
an actor, it's not so you could be,
A
be
star.
in a series
Right.
or be a star. Because I worked a long time for nothing, just getting the experience, studying, doing free theater.
That's
That's how
right.
I was discovered, I said earlier.
That's right.
I wasn't getting paid in that play. But, and the thing about experience and building a strong foundation, you can't build a house on a weak foundation, right?
That's true.
You can't build a relationship on a weak foundation.
That's right.
It's got to be a strong foundation because my career has not been easy. I work with directors who don't know nothing.
Right? No, it's true. It's true.
Particularly in television. So
Right.
you have to know what to do, and you have to know when a director don't know nothing, and just go with what you have learned.
Right.
There are times when I could have just fallen apart, because some of the directors I've worked with just had an ego and wanted, oh, you work with Steven Spielberg, this is television now, after Color Purple, and they were anal retentive.
Right.
That's, you know what that means,
Yeah.
anal retentive?
Yeah.
All right,
You
y'all,
wanna say
you
the
didn't
right
know that.
one?
Okay, that's a nice way.
That's the real
I
polite
would go
way.
back
That's
to
a
my
polite way.
go back to my trailer and pray.
Yes.
God, let me just do my thing.
Right.
Let me be the character. Don't please take the fear out of me.
Yes.
And go back in there and just do it. And you know what? I've done that, and the director say, "Yeah, that's what I meant." Well, that's what I did on the interview when you cast me.
Right.
But you get there and they want to show out.
Right.
That's
They got
right.
something
Or
different to
teach
say.
you a lesson. You're not all that.
Right. Trying to bring
Especially
you down
when, you
a
know,
little bit.
that's right.
Bring the
And
chocolate down a little bit.
She mentioned something about fear. I want to say this. This whole myth of no fear, that's a myth. We all have it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And it's all fine. It's all good. All it does is make us. Okay. It can paralyze us or it can motivate us. And so we use it for that. If you've got nerves and stuff like that, it only makes you better. It makes you can use it to make you dot your T's. I mean, cross your T's and dot your I's, and really make sure. That's all it really is for. Is to make sure you just are on point,
cues,
right?
yeah.
On your cues. And so when I tell actors they're like I'm nervous, I'm like that's a good thing.
Absolutely.
That's what everybody says, to channel that energy.
Yes.
Don't let it take you over, but channel it.
But channel it.
Yeah,
That's right.
it's
Because
tough.
I get nervous as I'm not nervous.
Yes.
That's what they say.
That's right.
I get
yeah.
worried.
Yeah.
Like yes.
Well, we're definitely going to wrap now, but I have one last quick question for
Angela E.
Margaret.
Gibbs too. I
We're
want
gonna
you to
get-
put mine in there. I learned from an OG. So look.
We're going to get your social. Who would you have play you in a
your
movie?
biopic.
In your biopic. What actress would you have play you in your biopic?
In my bio.
Yeah.
Oh, if someone were to play me.
Yeah.
God, there's so many
That's a
wonderful
good one.
young
Angela
people.
Gibbs, she'd have me play. All right, go ahead.
Well, I don't know all the young people by name.
But is there somebody in particular that stands out to you that you look at? You're like, that's
Somebody that
that's
you
an
just love
up-and-comer.
what they're doing
Yeah,
right
you love
now.
the work they're doing.
I haven't seen you. Doggone it. I don't know. But I would hope that that she would be someone that other people could, when she performed me, maybe she could know that I'm not that person without insecurities and know my strengths and weaknesses. And you do that in reading about a person.
Yeah. Do your research.
Who's homegirl from Scandal?
Research.
You know,
You talking
Carrie?
about
It's gonna kill
Like
me.
the lead?
Yeah,
Carrie.
Carrie?
Washington.
Carrie Washington.
Carrie could do you. Yes, she could.
Carrie Washington.
That's right.
As long as she has a sense of humor.
Yes.
Yes,
Oh, yeah,
she does.
She's good.
All right.
Okay.
So now we're gonna give your social media again, Margaret. What's your social media?
Ooh,
name?
Lord, thank you
You're
so
ready.
much.
I know you're excited about this.
Margaret Shug Avery. It's Instagram, and Margaret Avery. Is it 83? For
Yes.
83.
Yeah,
yes.
for what?
Twitter.
For Twitter. Okay.
Angela, what's your?
That is Angela E. Gibbs for all of them. Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
So-
Angela E. Gibbs.
That's where people reach you if they want to talk to you about
That's
acting,
right.
coaching, producing projects, all that. Okay,
Everything.
great.
Margaret Avery for Facebook.
Oh,
Do it. Find her.
She on Facebook.
And she
too.
will friend you.
She wants you to friend her.
Right.
That's right.
And she will follow back.
Yeah.
Courtney.
Please, I'm begging. I'm not too proud.
Ain't either. I'm begging
Listen.
too. I need some more followers myself.
Right, me too.
I'm not so great at the Instagrams and the Twitters, but
And I try to get back with a note, but if they're private, I
Yeah.
can't go in.
Oh, yeah.
All right,
And
that's
comment on
and
it.
comment on it. That's fair enough. Well, I'm everywhere at Stewart Starlet.
I'm
Sure.
Dominique. You find me all over the internet at
Don't talk so
Dominique.
fast.
And every week at blackgirlnerds.com.
I'm Derrial, Christon. I'm gonna talk real slow so Margaret don't yell at me. You can
You already almost got a
spanking.
spanking.
Tried to get on me earlier. I was afraid I was gonna get the belt out. You can find me at Derrial Christon on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Thank you two for coming
Thank
in.
you so much.
It's
You guys
been
are awesome.
very inspirational, and
Appreciate y'all.
we know we're doing the right things up in here. So thank you.
Yes,
God bless you
you are.
guys.
Thank you.
So much.
That's the success
Thank
of the
you.
show.
That was fun.
From executives Keven Undergaro, Derrial Christon, Tiana Hobson, and the entire BHL staff, we would like to thank you for supporting Black Hollywood Live, the first online broadcast network dedicated to African American entertainment. For questions and comments, contact us. info@blackhollywoodlive.com. Like us on Facebook, tweet us, or Instagram us at BHL Online. And I am the official voice of Black Hollywood Live, Scipio, Instagram at KingXOBay. Thanks for tuning in.
Hollywood Redefined.
The views expressed here are those of the host only and do not necessarily reflect the views of BHL or its owners or principals.